We are trying to describe a very complex problem in a very short period of time. It may take us 3 days to do this. I ask you that you would videotape or DVD every episode this week. I have been warning about a structure that progressives have worked to put into place. The health care bill, cap and trade, the stimulus bill, thousands and thousands of pages that nobody has seemed to have read. We exposed this structure layer by layer until we finally got to the same guy over and over again, George Soros. Now, I just showed you how he collapsed regimes internationally, and now he's aiming at America. Soros has been calling for globalization for decades, saying, quote, to stabilize and regulate a truly global economy, we need some global system of political decision-making. In short, we need a global society to support our global economy. Interestingly, the greatest opposition to this idea is coming from the United States. With the right sense of leadership and with a clarity of purpose, the U.S. and its allies could help stabilize the global economic system. The opportunity is waiting to be grasped. So he knows better. You just don't understand. Do you see the arrogance? Soros's goal for achieving globalization is done through organizations, puppet organizations, and he remains in the shadow. He's able to pull the strings because he's the money that animates each of these puppets. According to Shadow Party author Richard Poe, he wrote, through his global web of open society institutes and open society foundations, Soros has spent 25 years recruiting, training, indoctrinating, and installing a network of loyal operatives in 50 countries, placing them in positions of influence and in power in media, government, finance, and academia. Does any of this sound familiar? This formula of infiltrating the system is always the same with Soros. It's the one he always uses. So I'm not asking you to believe me on conjecture. I'm asking you to learn the history of George Soros. His method is to create a shadow party, form a shadow government every time, and then you'll be one step closer to one world government and taking power. A shadow party is not a political party. It is not, at least not in a tangible sense. It works outside the normal electoral system. In 2000, Soros funded 1/3 of the shadow conventions. Do you even remember these? They were run by Arianna Huffington, the president's favorite source of news. And one of the lead organizers next to her was Jim Wallace, one of the guys who is campaigning against this program, surprise, surprise. The idea was to parallel the Democratic and Republican conventions, the shadow convention. Huffington said at the time, the message of the shadow conventions was, quote, not left or right, and the answers to these issues are not going to be found in the old ideas of the past. Clearly, the Great Society solution of top-down programs has failed. Top-down programs. Instead, the answers could be found in the raw power, quoting, of government appropriations. Wow. But it was the next election cycle that truly launched the shadow party. In 2004, when Soros didn't mince words, he stated, quote, this is not a normal election. These are not normal times. And, quote, I do not accept the rules imposed by others. If I did, I would not be alive today. And in periods of regime change, normal rules do not apply. One needs to adjust one's behavior to the changing circumstances. By the 2004 election cycle, Soros's shadow party had shaped the Democratic message. Under Soros, the guidance of the shadow party infrastructure had assumed the coherent shape by early 2004. There were 7 extensively independent nonprofit groups, which included MoveOn.org, that would help the Democrats. Really. Soros surrounds himself by radicals and revolutionaries. Let me go back to what I told you at the beginning. George Soros is creating a new structure through a shadow party. He infiltrates politics. He pulls the same playbook out every single time. Ukraine, Croatia, Yugoslavia, Georgia, and Slovakia. The same thing. Here it is, step by step. Step 1, you form a shadow government. He's done that. Infiltrate the target country using humanitarian aid, Open Society Institute, or ACORN, whatever they are, as cover. Step 2, You control the airwaves. Has he done that? Fund existing radio and television outlets or start your own outlets. We showed you this chalkboard yesterday. This is his media empire. NPR, free press. It's all here. Step 3, you destabilize the state. Would you make a case that this is being done? You cause a political or economic crisis, or you take advantage of an existing crisis. Step 4, provoke an election crisis, where you don't want to really trust the outcome of an election. You wait for an election, and then you cry voter fraud. This, by the way, La Raza and Acorn funded through OSI, George Soros' charity arm. Step 5, stage massive demonstrations, and you accuse opponents of voter fraud through radio and TV stations that you control. Soros has been laying the groundwork for change for the U.S. for decades, going through many of these steps one at a time, sometimes combined. Step 1, Soros has established his Open Society Institute in the U.S. Step 2, he's been trying to control the airwaves by funding media outlets and attacking Fox News, and they're doing it now with millions of dollars on this program and Fox. Step 3, Soros supports massive government spending, which will worsen our deficit crisis, destabilize the state. This is a man who lives above the law. This is a man who is not exactly humble. In fact, he fancies himself somewhat of a god. In his own words, next. What would possess a man to need as much power as George Soros does? Well, the title of a biography that he himself authorized refers to him as a messianic billionaire. Wow, that's quite a claim. But maybe you should look into the mind of the puppet master and see what's inside.
The United States should find its proper place in a new world order. They would have to give up some of their privileges.
He's been trying to reorder the world as if he is the creator. Soros has admitted in the past he doesn't believe in God. But that's perhaps because he thinks he is.
Soros himself admits that from the time he was very young, he had megalomaniacal ideas. He said he had messianic fantasies. He said he even thought of himself as a kind of god.
In Underwriting Democracy, he writes, quote, "If truth be known, I carried some rather potent messianic fantasies with me from childhood. In The Alchemy of Finance, quote, I fancied myself as some kind of god."
He's even said that now that I've made these things, these dreams into a reality, I feel more comfortable admitting to the magnitude of my, my ambitions.
In Soros on Soros, quote, "I probably couldn't feel all of a piece if I weren't larger than life." To the New Yorker, God in the Old Testament has a number of attributes. Invisible. I was pretty invisible. Benevolent. I was pretty benevolent. All-seeing. I tried to be all-seeing. End quote.
Soros goes further in that he has said that he wants to be the conscience of the world. He was quoted by his biographer, Kaufman.
Yes, I did say that, and actually I stand by it. I think the world very much needs a conscience. I want my foundation network to be the conscience of the world.
We're almost out of time, but there is so much more in the next 2 broadcasts. Make sure you DVR this program and share it with as many friends as you can. There is a personal story in this that we need to share with you. A little over a month ago, George Soros, his right-hand man, reached out to one of the vice presidents, one of the executives on this television program. He requested a meeting in public between the two of them. The executive accepted Mr. Soros' invitation. The meeting began with the Soros guy saying that this program, and me in particular, was corroding the very foundation of America and instigating violence to boot. And that was just while they were waiting to be seated at the restaurant. When that wild opening salvo failed to prompt anything more than a calm rebuttal from my executive, the Soros executive then shifted gears, explaining that we were hurting their business, even hurting Mr. Soros himself. Then he went on to talk about a vast right-wing conspiracy headed by this show or Fox News, targeting his boss because of his support for the Democratic candidates or maybe his position on legalizing drugs. I have no idea. But after my guy calmly rebutted the notion of any conspiracy, his guy, apparently out of bullets, said, then why? Why focus on George Soros if it's not that? My executive explained to him that whenever you do a Google search on failing economies or collapsed currencies, the name George Soros keeps popping up, usually at number 1. And because he steadfastly believes in one world government at the expense of the United States of America. I do not. The Soros guy dismissed his boss's role in collapsing the currencies, like the British sterling. He said it was overhyped, claiming they really didn't make that much off it, as people say. As far as one world government or globalization, well, he explained that ship, quoting, had already sailed. And he suggested that if Glenn Beck doesn't recognize that, he'll just be left behind. He then looked at my executive and said, I don't think you hear me. I don't think you understand. Glenn Beck is hurting Mr. Soros and his business. At this point, the Soros executive abruptly ended the meeting, but not before saying that he had a gift from Mr. Soros for me, something he wanted my executive to give to me. He reached into his briefcase and handed him this. It's a movie, a DVD, a 1957 movie, made by a communist, by the way, how appropriate, called A Face in the Crowd, starring Andy Griffith. I watched this when MSNBC started this rumor about 2 years ago that this is who I was. It was handed to him. He wanted to make sure that it was very clear that the story accurately represented of who they thought and who Mr. Soros thought I was personally. He said, make sure you share it with Mr. Beck. In case you're not familiar, Andy Griffith plays a drunk, a petty criminal who, with the help of radio reporter played by Marcia Neal, transforms himself into a famous national talk show host, a man of influence with the masses and politically powerful, but he is a very bad guy. Towards the end of the movie, the character, Larry Lonesome Rhodes, is revealed to be a fraud, a liar, and the movie ends with him all alone, screaming insanely from the balcony of his Manhattan high-rise. Marcia Neal's character is afraid he's going to jump. Mr. Soros, I'm not going to jump. I'm also not Lonesome Rhodes, but I appreciate your thinking of me. Let me say again what I've repeated on this program several times. All of this can go away tomorrow, but as long as I have breath, I will use that breath to speak about what I truly believe is the truth. As I have done several times on this broadcast and in that private public meeting with a partner of George Soros. Mr. Soros, you're welcome on this program to spend an hour with me. I'm sorry to hear that you repeatedly turn it down. We have a lot more information for you tomorrow and the next day. Make sure you tell your friends to join us. And all the information on tonight's broadcast is available at glennbeck.com and in my free email newsletter. Tomorrow, Soros and collapsing currencies internationally. What are his plans for the dollar? Don't miss it tomorrow. Good night, America.